Lesson 12. Dear brothers and sisters, I wanted to talk to you about the important topic of how to communicate with the spiritual master. This topic is of paramount importance as it allows each human being to reach the true level of development. All the general guidelines are merely introductory to this process. From here begins the true spiritual elevation, the true learning, the true refinement, different for each individual, but the same in the end. To be able to communicate with the spiritual master, all the chakras must be functioning in an interconnected way, with energy flowing from the lower to the upper parts, transforming energy in each chakra and providing it to the one above. Only in this way can the harmonious development of the spiritual energy centers and the opening of the mind necessary for this communication occur. Once the energy reaches the sixth chakra, starting from the fifth, many of you will be able to establish communication. It's quite simple. Once you have activated the fifth chakra, you only need to open your mind, which will open automatically. To help you understand, it will be as if before reaching the fifth obstacle, when the mind is closed like a closed flower, you perceive this when you are meditating. And when it opens, you notice how the mind's energy is released, how the limits disappear, how it fully communicates with the universe. There is no longer any wall that can stop that communication, and then the process unfolds easily. Once you have the necessary conditions, the spiritual master will communicate directly with you because they long for your evolution. Many brothers and sisters share a common spiritual master. Others share one, and very few have one all to themselves. It all depends on each person's mission, the life project they are meant to fulfill, and the realization of that life project in each moment in the energetic evolution that each one is destined to undertake. This means that initially a spiritual teacher can guide a group of people. As that group progresses to a higher level, the workload increases, and another spiritual teacher takes charge of a smaller group within that larger group. This continues until, in exceptional cases, when someone reaches a high level or circumstances require individual guidance, they will have their own teacher. Once you have established communication with your spiritual teacher, the teacher will guide you on the path to your proper evolution. This path will be different for each person, taking into account your karma, your necessary evolution, and the plan you have written for yourself. This will determine the series of instructions you will receive. If you are asking whether communication with the spiritual teacher produces external effects, the answer is that it only produces internal effects. Externally, only the effects derived from meditation and spiritual elevation will occur, such as those I mentioned earlier, like the energy of the laying on of hands, the vision of energy flowing between bodies, between the entities that make up the universe. Asking if communicating with your spiritual teacher causes fatigue, the answer is that it depends on each individual, on the openness of the mind. The mind, in turn, has several smaller energy centers that are interconnected with the last chakra, and these are the ones that need to be activated for communication to be more effective. Once the communication between these chakras and the chakra of enlightenment, the last one, is more perfect, there is greater coordination, fatigue disappears, and you can spend hours and hours in this state. In some cases, you can even communicate with spiritually more advanced beings, such as those you call extraterrestrial brothers. The process must begin in the same way, although it depends on each person. Sometimes one of you or few of you have the energy circuits activated, and communication with spiritual entities is faster. In the case of communicating with spiritual teachers, it is simpler because, since they are not living beings, their energy is more similar to the frequency of the universe's energy. On the other hand, when one communicates with a spiritually elevated living being, call it an extraterrestrial as you say, the frequency of the communication has to be much higher, because living beings capable of communicating spiritually and speaking telepathically with others are usually of a spiritual level more focused on communication with lower beings, beings that they have to watch over. That is why, even though they have to communicate with lower beings like yourselves, they also need to have the universal frequency to communicate with spiritual entities, because they are usually spiritual. They have to meditate very frequently and at great depth. This makes the mind of these spiritually evolved beings much more diverse than that of a spiritual being. They have to deal with both dimensions, the energetic dimension of the physical dimension and the energetic dimension of the spiritual world. They are similar, but they are not the same. They operate at different frequencies. This usually makes communication with an extraterrestrial being of this type more difficult and exhausting until your mind opens sufficiently. The energy of the energy centers related to the last chakra is adjusted, and thus communication takes place at the same energy level between both parties. There is no energy overload, since the one you can communicate with them has the capacity to harmonize their energy with the one emitting it and then absorb it completely. You might be wondering how to know when you are hearing a lie or when what you hear is true. The answer isn't simple because sometimes spiritual entities slip in, pretending to be something they are not, and they are very good at deceiving you. To understand this, to separate the communication energy caused by negative entities from the energy created by your ego, which only generates fear, you must desire clear communication and prevent the ego from interfering. You can do this by visualizing your mind as vast and limitless, and your ego in a small, confined space. When you speak with extraterrestrial, it's the same principle, but the ego intrudes in other ways, and you'll perceive it. Then you'll have to close it off, like in a container or a sealed sphere, so it doesn't escape into other communication channels. Your spiritual leader will guide you through this process. When I am in the dream world, when you are in an intermediate phase between the REM sleep, where dreams are generated, and a deeper phase where your astral body is outside your physical body, that's enough for today. Until next time, see you, brothers.